Let's get on with the subject. Because there is a will, and because there are murderers and rapists and all this stuff, people that we consider bad, and I hope if you're the average person, hopefully you would say, I think it's generous people would say, at least agree, at least verbally, that yes, murderers, rapists, thieves, stuff like that are bad because they do what's wrong. Well, when you got that will in people, and when you find out that it's universal, that your mother, your father, all these people will do things bad, then you realize that people's will is not to do the right thing. That should be obviously manifest. And when you cannot talk with people and get certain terms nailed down, that's exactly what I'm talking about. They have the will not to understand. They don't want to be perceived as illogical, and many people do not want to accept the fact that God exists. Those that do verbally, there's acceptation in their verbiage, at least. Will deny as a loving, good God that does moral things. They will deny him by their behavior. So the idea of let's get into debate, yes, certain questions can be answered, but the more personal those questions are, the more people don't want to answer them or will ignore them. And I keep on bringing this up. I don't want to, incur the wrath of Khan here, but there was one guy, atheist guy, he said, somebody sent him some videos thinking supporting Christianity. I don't know if they may have been mine. I had another site up that may have been from my other site, and he said, don't waste my frickin' time. And you know what? That's all this, I would say, it's pretty much all this particular atheist does. He raises the questions from his perspective, from his will. He's decided, this is my position. Whether you take position atheist or Christian, you got to decide you're taking a position. That is based on the will. It is the will that decides, I will understand that or accept that logic. It is the will that decides where I'll listen or see or smell or whatever. And this particular atheist, and and it's why I don't listen to most Christians or most atheists, or any of that. They don't want to listen. They don't want to get the question answered. Oh, I have a question. Well, they don't want to answer it, and they don't want you to answer it. And I was listening to another atheist. And I listen to him because he seems logical or reasonable, and that's why I listen to him. He seems to either to search for the reality or truth without putting himself out in front of that and saying, well, my will, my decision is more important than what reality is, at least in some sense. He can do that at least sometimes. Where his will, at least in certain situations, is to find out the truth, so I listen to him. But, there aren't many self-proclaimed atheists that I listen to. In fact, he's the only one self-proclaimed atheist officially on YouTube that I will listen to. But there's the will. When somebody says atheist, it means atheist, atheos, or atheos. It means without God, apart from God. The working definition, or the denotative definition, which there should be some conjunction there, obviously. You shouldn't be using words that means something completely different, typically, unless they're catchphrases or slang, that are completely different from the that in working that are completely different than the denotation. But it's without God, something that I've yet to see proven. Or of course, they could always say I've yet to see proven evolution. I've had that, had that in high school. Evolution, we studied that. Had a course on it in college. We studied that. It was referred to in college. It was never proven. It was never met to my satisfaction. But see, that goes once again. You used to talk about people. Well, why don't Christians be logical? It's because people don't want to be logical. The only time they would use logic is to prove their point. Because people have a will. They are very rarely willing to concede another person's point that is in opposition, because they have a will and they've decided what's right or what's wrong or whatever you want. They've decided their position and they're not going to change it. Partially plant. The idea of Christianity is to get the questions answered that are immediate, rather than that are just playthings. If you put toys in front of children, they'll play with those toys. But you give a child something to eat, something to drink, because they need that to survive. At least it is believed, although I don't know if it's ever been proven in a laboratory. That's my little joke. You know things. You know that this organized world, even the existence of anything, demands a creator. But see, you don't want to give the answers out, and people feel they can rely on faith or on established religion or the Bible as an excuse not to be logical. And they don't live lives of morality, so they're not going to get too deep into answering questions. And a wise Christian wouldn't get too deep in it either, to a large extent, because there's the will there, that when you hit something that affects somebody, their will is to be immoral. If God really exists and is moral, then their will is to make that turn into nonsense. The basics, before you get into the details about God, the basics that He exists is not something that everybody will find to parse with fairly. They want to hold their position. When Christianity gets to the point where it starts stepping on toes, people want to get away from the logic. Because if they're known to be logical about that, someone might have a question about their lives and how they're living their Christianity. And people generally don't want to get there. But contrary-wise, a wise Christian will not try to defend all these points. Because, let's say, well, why does the Bible say, you must be baptized? Or why does the Bible say take communion? You start explaining that point and they ask another question. As if they completely ignore what you said, because it's getting too close for their comfort. Christians, I think, supposed Christians, play close to the lion's den, literally. They play close to the lion's den. They say, well, I want to get close to the truth, but never reach it. It's something that people would rather distance themselves from, whether it be a great distance or a small distance, because of the will and because of the opposition to morality, i.e. in a Christian manifest, as well as perhaps other theories, goodness, morality.